we get started, I want to introduce Gloria Arellanes from the Tongva Nation, and she's going to be leading an opening prayer.
Grandfather, grandmother, spirits of the four directions, spirits of the south, spirits of the west, spirits of the east, north, and spirits of the east. And this is where these spirits will enter and join us and give us energy and give us focus and keep us calm and at peace. And to Mother Earth and Father Sky, we are blessed to be here today.
We are standing on indigenous lands. Indigenous people are resilient people. They've had to be in order to survive the brutality and the imperialism that the U.S. government has forced upon them. Today, we're here standing in solidarity with the people who are now, today, being oppressed, being separated from their families, being tormented by imperialism.
I am here today on behalf of Affirm because I have experienced the pain of family separation. I have gone through the fear of not coming home to my family, to my children, and to my community. I have experienced depression, anxiety, anger, and pain due to my immigration status and through witnessing how other families get separated every single day.
My family came to the United States almost 50 years ago because my father was kicked out of South Korea, not North Korea, South Korea, for teaching democracy. He was a college professor teaching constitutional law in Korea, and South Korean government kicked him out because I was under the U.S. controlled the dictatorship in Korea at the time. And we were fortunate to be allowed to come to the United States and be here. And so I speak to you as someone who have come here from somewhere else.
I've spent decades taking issues of refugees and migrant issues from around the world, human rights abuses. This issue, obviously, this urgent issue at our border is going there as well. We've taken the issues of private prisons here and private detention centers so they don't escape the view of the international community. So what does that mean for us? That means when we struggle for one day or 1 year or our entire lives, we have to have a presence at the United Nations, at congressional offices, on the streets, on the phone, with our families. We don't stop.
It is about legitimacy of a human beings and humanity issue, because fundamentally there is only one purpose of the law in any land. Purpose of the law is to protect the weak. It is to protect the outsider. It is to ensure that the vulnerable are taken care of. It is to make sure that those who are honest are protected from those who deceive. That those who are weak are protected from those who claim to have power and who misuse power. We stand today because it's our humanity that is in question.
I am fed up and I am here to declare that immigrant women, immigrant children, and all immigrants are people. We are here to affirm our humanity.
Ya hemos tenido lo suficiente de este bullshit, de esta mierda que nos están poniendo encima. Estamos y ya no los vamos a dejar. I don't know how many of you have seen a video of a woman telling off the migrant on a bus. Raise your hand if you've seen that woman. That's me. I was coming back from visiting my mother in El Paso, Texas. And I remember as a child going on that bus and that we were taught to just say American citizen. Well, that was a long time ago. And you know what? You don't have to demand my papers. Nobody should have to show their papers when they are traveling and migrating. So that we are not in Nazi Germany. I should not have to carry my ID or my papers wherever I go. And the fear and intimidation being put upon our migrants is unjustified and unlawful.
And because as a religious leader, I always ask my people, who is your neighbor? Scripture tells us, neighbors are those who are new. Neighbors are those who are weak. Neighbors are those who are in need. neighbors are those who are vulnerable, because the scripture is reminding us all the time that we are there to take care of our neighbors, and we must do that here today, because the law is illegitimate if it does not take care of the poor, if it does not take care of the new and the aliens.
To the U.S. government, ICE, and Polimigra, you are now officially put on notice by women of Affirm. We will not stop fighting until you are completely out of our neighborhoods, out of our schools, and out of our workplaces. We will not stop fighting until all of our children and all immigrants are safely returned to our families and are free.
Do you all remember slavery was legal at a time? Do you all remember the Japanese internment? You remember, and I could go on and on, the indigenous genocide, all of that. All of that was lawful at the time. And we must change the laws. We are not going to take it anymore. The Polimigra, and I'm going to say it loud and clear, fuck ICE! Fuck ICE!
Where did ICE come from? After 9/11, as a pretext, because everyone was living in fear at that time, they did away with the immigration and naturalization that functioned under the Justice Department. That was also awful, but it had the word naturalization in there, which meant that dreamers, it meant that immigrants could become voting U.S. citizens. That's unacceptable. So they created ICE so as to have the profile of those who attacked the World Trade Center. How many immigrants around you do you know were part of those that were in those airplanes, right? They were here legally from Saudi Arabia. They were not undocumented. And yet they are painting with a broad brush the criminalization and a terrorist image of immigrants, of refugees, of those seeking asylum.
Immigration has decreased in these past years. It is not a threat. It is not a threat to our society. It is not a threat to our culture. It is not a threat to our local economy. And it is not a threat to our happiness. Never was. Thank you, ma'am. That's right.
And so here we are standing today because our humanity is at attack. Our human rights, because this is about the fact that every human being has inherent and a natural human right to migrate, to look for a place to support your family, just like my parents had to do to take care of their family. Because when we came to the United States, my father was kicked out and told he could never take care of his family, his homeland. And that was the second time that he became a refugee, because first time was a U.S. war in Korea, made him an orphan by himself. And here, once again, we are at a place where this country is orphanizing people. And it is telling people they do not have the right to live and take care of themselves, and we must stand against the propaganda that questions and attacks your humanity.
You know, Dr. Cornel West said that social justice is love made public. Social justice is love made public. And if people are going to be real Christians, not these fake hypocrites, then I think they need to go back and see what the message of Jesus Christ was. And that's love each other as I have loved you.
We will not stop fighting until you, your detention centers, and all other establishments that are acting like detention centers, including the centers that are holding our children, are abolished and defunded.
We have to understand, this is not about an external threat. This is about profits. This is about racism, imperialism. We cannot stand by and be quiet while all of these things occur. Because if we leave these people out, if we tell these people they have no rights, we will have no rights.
Despite you discarding us, trafficking us, detaining us, deporting us, abusing us, raping and murdering us, we women are still here, and we're not going anywhere.
The U.S. government is not here to protect the people. It is here to protect the corporatocracy, the wealthy, the elite, and they do not represent our values. This is Los Angeles, California, a community of immigrants, of wonderful people with great hearts and community spirit and values. The American Indian movement was based upon a renewal of spirituality that would impart the strength and resolve to reverse the ruinous policies of the U.S. government. And we stand here with you today.
So are we ready to fight for our children? Yes. Are we ready to fight for our immigrant women? Yes. Are we ready to fight for our transgender sisters? Yes. Are we ready to fight for all immigrants? Yes. Thank you.